What's been the biggest key to the Clippers' early season success? And I'll go first on this one. PG and Kawhi are both playing at borderline MVP levels. Kawhi is averaging 25, PG is averaging 24. But I think people are really underestimating two acquisitions that they made. One, Ibaka. We knew what he was going to bring. He can stretch out the floor. He's a really good rim protector, and he's agile enough to keep up with the guards on the perimeter. Another guy is Nicholas Batum. When they have a lineup of Batum, Kawhi, and PG, that is a nightmare defensively because of the length that they have, and Pat Bev. Nicholas Batum is shooting the three at a very efficient rate. He's shooting 44% from three. He's averaging 10 points per game, and he's more of a point forward. He can slow down the tempo. He has some point guard skills because he was an overseas player, so they bring that to the United States. And I think I'm going to name a third one, Luke Kennard. He's been phenomenal, and to trade Landry Shamet for Luke Kennard was a steal because Luke Kennard is a bigger player than Shamet, so he can defend better even though he's not a good defender. And he's a better player, too. He's just a better player than Landry Shamet. We're just being honest. And he's shooting 51% from three, averaging 9 points per game. So I think it's just been an all-around effort for the Clippers. And because PG and Kawhi are both dominating at the level that they are, the Clippers are this good right now.
You want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go. I think the two superstars you can obviously point out, those are the guys they've been playing at an elite level. Paul George looks like he's back to his old self, shooting 50, 50, 90. Averaging 24 points a game. I think what he said the other day in the Kings game was Tyronn Lue was letting him be more of a playmaker, and it showed he had a double-double. He's become more of a playmaker, and when you have a lineup of Paul George, Kawhi, and Batum out there, I think it looks really good because Batum can play make. You see Kawhi, he's starting to learn how to be a better playmaker, and Paul George is always a good playmaker. Ibaka has been a great addition. He can now pop out. He can now pop out and hit the jump shot. He's also was a better defender than Harrell. So I think starting him now, you kind of have that versatility with Pat Bev, Paul George, Kawhi, Batum, and Ibaka. You could switch almost anything. And then that bench lineup. Markieff Morris has taken – I'm sorry, Marcus Morris has accepted that role off the bench. Him, Kennard. Lou Will hasn't been playing good, but we know he'll get it going eventually. And Zubac, they've been a pretty dominant bench squad, and I think that's what's hitting on the nail. And everybody has bought into the Tyronn Lue system. You see that there's more continuity. The team is more well together. They see more chemistry, and I think they look better than last year's team in a lot of phases. So I think you got to give it shout out to Tyronn Lue. He's just got this team rolling.
Yeah, you mentioned one, the two stars, and two, the offseason acquisitions. But to me, most importantly, it's been Paul George and Kawhi. They said this offseason that they needed playmaking. They wanted to go out and get a playmaker. They didn't really get that, so they took it upon themselves, and they've both done a spectacular job playmaking, which I think has been their most important thing this season. The offense has flowed so much better than it did last year. It's not as much Paul George and Kawhi in the isolation as much as it's working through an offense, and they've done a great job facilitating that, and it's shown in the numbers. They've been the best three-point shooting team in the league this year by 4 percentage points. They have 7 guys on the roster that are shooting over 40% from three on at least 2 attempts a game, so they've been shooting the lights out of the ball, which almost concerns me because it's hard to imagine they could keep that up over the course of a season, but they've been doing it for 15 games now, so it's a good sign. And reading into them, you also just hear about how tight-knit of a group they've become this year. We're not in the locker room, so I can't, confirm that or dispute it. But from what I've read, they've become a tight-knit group this year, which I think is a stark contrast to last year when it was Paul George and Kawhi living out their superstar deals and
everybody else.
Yeah, and picking and choosing when they wanted to practice, whatever. And then everybody else was there. And it was a real big divide in that team, and it showed in the playoff series and everything that followed. Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers and his comments on the way out. You could tell it was not a very tight-knit group last year, and they've changed that this year. It showed in their play on the court. And it's everything that we said they needed this offseason except getting a playmaker, and Paul George and Kawhi have taken that role. Even Nick Batum has done a really nice job playmaking for him. Nick Batum got a lot of hate in Charlotte because of his contract, and people kind of thought that he was a bad player because he wasn't living up to a max deal, essentially.
He wasn't.
No, and
I didn't think he was a max player.
No,
That's
yeah.
their fault.
He wasn't living up to the contract by any means, but
He's still good.
it's hard to judge him off the contract
In
when
Charlotte, he
was
wasn't good.
was
Yeah.
dumb enough to give him the contract.
They
So
were.
I feel like people kind of underrated him because of how bad that deal was, and now playing in a reasonable deal in LA in a better role fit for him, he's been much better and a huge part of that team's success this year.
Yeah, like, and I thought, and we were talking about it in the summer. I remember people were like, Doc, what could Tyronn Lue do that is such a big upgrade from Doc? And like we said, I think him being more connected with the players and being a player coach and letting them make mistakes and putting the ball in position for them to be successful. I think that's what Doc didn't do. Doc kind of played the favoritism role, and Tyronn Lue's not doing that. And I think that's what kept his team very successful to start.
They're holding each other accountable this year.
I think after the 3-1 exit, they knew that they couldn't come into this year on anything else except 100%. And I was watching an interview with Paul George, and he said that he had to perform better and he had to do better. And through the first beginning stages of the season, I can say I have been seeing that. He has stepped up, and even, like the compliments you guys are saying, Nicholas Batum, he could shoot it. Kawhi, he's always going to be Kawhi. But Ty Lue really looks like he's changing the identity of that team.
The Clippers have won 5. They have won 5 games by blowouts.
They also got blown out, though.
Yes, they did. They did. They're 11-4. They're second in the Western Conference. Do you think that they need to make a move? Should they still go out and trade for a point guard, or are they fine?
With the Pelicans to get Lonzo Ball, and I think Lonzo would be a pretty good pickup for them. I just don't know what they would give up.
I was going to say, what would the price tag be?
Yeah, I think everybody should be. I think giving up Pat Bev is cool.
I would definitely do that.
But I think giving up the shooting off the bench, I don't think that's what they want to do because that's been their go-to, their niche. So I wouldn't do it, but that's been. I think they should definitely. I think Reggie Jackson has been good for them coming off the bench. I think Pat Bev has been good so far. He's been hitting at a pretty good clip. But I think that playmaking is good. I think Lonzo is a big upgrade from Pat Bev, aside from offense. So I think they can go out and get him, but I don't think they should give out too much because they don't have many picks either, if any at all.
The Pelicans are looking to trade the wrong point guard. They should be looking to trade Eric Bledsoe.
He's horrible.
Not Lonzo. They should be keeping Lonzo. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Lonzo would be a great addition to the Clippers. Again, it just depends on what they would have to give up. I don't really think they should touch much of this core because they've been playing so well. A move would obviously help them depending on who it is, but when you look at this team right now, I think they're the second best team in the West. They're the biggest threat to the Lakers in the West, and they're a real finals contender. So, it just depends on these guys keeping their foot on the gas pedal and playing this way all season. Can they do that? Because they looked great last year too to start the year, and then they kind of slowly unraveled, obviously leading up to the 3-1 lead.
Something that was very that was brought out to my attention. I was watching the Kings game, and the amount of minutes that Kawhi and Paul George have played so far right now, they didn't get to touch that man until the 30th game of the season last year. So them playing together is also something that's good. And I think, like you said, they're the biggest threat to LA. They're even, honest in my opinion, they're the biggest threat to the Nets outside of LA because they can match up. I think this is the one team that will give the Nets and the Lakers trouble just because of that they can match up 1 through 5. So I think, like we said with playoff P all the time, if he can be an actual playoff P, then this team can definitely be a threat. But so far, so good.
I think this is the year we're gonna get our LA matchup that we were supposed to get last year.
I hope so. We've been waiting for it, so I hope so.
We've been waiting for it, since last year. I hope that it happens too. I don't know if they should make a move. I don't think trading Pat Bev for Lonzo makes them better. I don't, because I think Pat Bev is a better shooter, and I think he's a better defender too. I think he gives you that energy. He gives you that toughness.
Yeah.
If they could trade maybe a future first or pick swaps and seconds for Lonzo, then do it.
They have one. I think they swap with you guys.
But
you guys get the.
I don't think they should trade too much for Lonzo.
A 2045 first round pick.
Yeah. Who wants that?